One other thing that is really useful for this kind of atmospheric sounds is drawing from modes. So if you took my theory classes, you know all about modes. If you didn't, jump over to those classes and review modes because they're going to be really useful to you in this class, in any kind of film scoring. Let me get rid of my pad here and my orchestra thing here. And let's try to do just something atmospheric. I'm going to rely on the piano a little bit here, see if I can do kind of like that Thomas Newman thing. Except, I'm not going to play this in. I'm going to plunk this in. I mean, I'm going to click in the notes. So I need a MIDI clip. And let's open that up a little bit so we can see. Now, what the modes are, if you didn't take that class, the modes are like the major and the minor scale. We've got the major scale, we've got the minor scale, and then we've got about 5 other ones. And those are called the modes. Technically, the major and minor scales are also modes themselves. We like to think of the major scale as happy and the minor scale as sad, and these other 5 are like somewhere in between, right? They're more nuanced characteristics of happy and sad. We've got one that's kind of super happy, and we've got one that's, kind of dark and sad. Let's use a little bit darker one. So this is, to me, we're going to use the Dorian mode. And the Dorian mode, to me, it's primarily a minor mode. So it's based on the minor scale. But it's not super sad. It's somewhere between sad and content is where I like to think of it. Let's make a Dorian scale first, and I'll show you how we can use this. So if you remember the pattern, Dorian is the second one. So there's a pattern to these modes. If I start on C and make a C major scale, which is just going to be all the white notes, there's a C major scale. Now if I want to make a Dorian scale, all I have to do is take this lowest note, move it to the top, and now I have a D Dorian scale. Okay? Now, we've been using C minor for this film so far. So if I want to use C Dorian, I'm just going to move everything down a whole step to get it to C Dorian. This is like C minor, but it's got this raised 6th scale degree here. So I am going to use only these notes. I'm going to use a C Dorian scale. Now before we were using C minor, which is all of these notes except for the 6th one was down here. So we're just going to raise that 6th, and that's going to give it a little bit different characteristic. Okay, so I'm going to put this over here, and then I'm just going to start it right here. So I'm on my piano, and I'm just going to kind of blindly start putting notes in places here. Let's do longer notes. Okay. I have my volume down on that track again. Okay, so let's see. There's that 6. Let's do that. Let's do even longer notes, actually, because I want this to be atmospheric. So let's go there. There, and I want this to not repeat. That's the trick. Let's make this longer. Oh, right. Okay, so let's go down to a C. Just kind of outlining notes in the scale. Let's go out of an octave, a little above, down here. Let's go down to an F. Let's go to that major 6 right there. And back down to a C. Give us a little syntonic. E. Oops, get off farther than here. D. That's nice. Let's put this up here. Okay, let's hear what we've got. Oops. Okay, well, there's our scale. Let's take this whole thing up an octave. Okay, now this at this point sounds like just random notes, but because I'm just kind of noodling around in the D Dorian scale, I could just copy it over. Let's see what happens if we do this. And then, well, let's not do the second one. Let's just do that. Let's get rid of our scale. We don't need to hear that again. So now I'm going to have some harmonies that pop in here. Let's just see what we just did. We're just exploring the sounds that we've got. Okay, not extremely interesting, but let's throw that on our string track. And then let's take this one. Let's go back to just the one note. Get rid of the second note in the harmony here, more or less. Let's hear what we did now. Let's turn that up. Oh, I don't like that one. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to double the length of all of these notes. Oops. Okay. Now this is double as long as each one of these. Let's just hear what we've done here. And actually, I'm going to move this down an octave. The strings down an octave. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere, right? And all I'm really doing here is poking around in C Dorian. So actually, this wasn't my plan, but now that we've got this started, let's move on and jump into seeing if we can find a spot where this fits and we can develop this a little bit more in our somewhat terrible film that we've been working on here. Okay, off we go. And by somewhat terrible, I mean the film is actually really terrible. I think I pointed this out before, but if you're just joining us in part 2, this film I've decided to use, it's just a dumb movie. But anyway, it serves our purposes just great.